Hello, and here we are back in the studio. I've been here for 10 days now, and it's all coming together. I'm really, really pleased with how it's looking and feeling. I've been very lucky in that I had John here with me for the last 10 days and very few other distractions other than, life and the kids and what have you. So we've been able to very quickly get stuff done, like getting the shelves up, getting the desk in, getting the table in, getting pictures up that required a drill. So it just means that it can both feel lovely but also be a functioning space with all the things that I need to hand. So I'm not climbing over things. I feel really, really lucky. Then I thought I'd give you a bit of a tour of some of these smaller bits now that everything's looking a bit tidier. Like this is above my desk, just by the window. Things that you'll recognise from my old workspace, old photos of French families that I don't know, for example, and all my ink bits and drawings and little pots, just finding their new homes in the new space. No doubt they'll move. Then John came up with a brilliant idea of putting my drawers on top of the ladder, wedged in with a piece of wood at the bottom. You can't quite see it, but amazingly, it's really sturdy. So this is the view if you're turning away from my desk. This is the opposite end. That's the studio door, which is incredibly ugly, but it's a fire door and very safe. Then to the left, you've got the shelves where we're going to make brews and teas, and I've got a lot of my props and tools, some more books, some records. It's a really handy storage space. And then on the walls, I've put up a lot of my grandmother's old sketches, some of my mum's sketches, a drawing by Elwyn. I really wanted to bring in not just my work and strangers' work, but my family's work. Then here, yes, you can see the shelves with all my candle holders and bottles. That basket has dried petals in it, more candle holders, an old potty, all things that I end up using for styling in some way or other, as well as a pot of honey. So this is the basket I mentioned earlier, and it's full of dried petals. Many of them John's mum saved from her garden for me, and I add them to parcels or add them to tables when styling. Honestly, I feel so lucky to have had John here just to go up ladders and do really practical things for me that I can be pretty rubbish at. This is one of the bottom shelves next to my desk full of books, and as my friend Dan said the other day, do you actually read any of these? I do read some of them, and a lot of them I use for illustration inspiration. And then this is the table full of, again, loads of trinkets and props that I was really struggling with knowing where to put things. I did wonder whether I'd actually manage to get there, but as I'll show you later on, pretty much everything found a home really, because I will be using this table for styling and for doing videos on styling spaces as well. So just a little run through. There's my old typewriter, which I rescued from the old theatre where I used to work, which was an old prop, and all of my shells and tins, old tiles that my mum found in Portobello, bits of felt, a couple of mouth accordions, my favourite cup which broke and is now ornamental, my Java berry sign, pieces of fabric and embroidery. I've been slowly putting things up on the walls, like for example that painting and that lovely palette, which isn't mine. I found it in a charity shop and I've just always kept it because it looks like a painting to me, really. And then beloved mirrors and flowers. Then these are a lot of the paper things that I want to hang up. That was a painting that I did when I was 7. And then there's some ornithology bird pictures. That drawing was by my mum. That's a sheet of my old business cards, the moons, and then a little notebook of drawings I did when we were camping. So I want to put up a selection of photos and artwork that I find interesting, as well as little bits of my work like these ones that tie in with it all, because it's kind of a reminder for me of just how I can use different materials and different paper and different ideas for my work. I feel like if it was all full of my stuff, then I wouldn't find inspiration. I need to have stuff from other areas. Like for example, this is right by my desk, and I've put up some of my grandmother's sketches, some of my sketches, some old William Morris wallpaper that I had. It was in, I think, the first house that I lived in Manchester. It was on the walls there. And when I left, I took some scraps away with me, and I've still got them. So I've used them as backing for a couple of my ink drawings on music paper. And then this piece that I'm holding here and putting up, that's an old newspaper. I think it's for betting. I found it in a cemetery in Ghana when I went over years ago with my aunt. Her husband was from Ghana, and I went over to help her look after her. My cousins were very little at the time, and I just saw lots of men lying on the tombstones in Accra, and they were all reading the paper, and I think they were like betting, I think, because it's like rows of numbers with circles around them. Anyway, so I found one of the discarded newspapers, and I've kept it ever since. It must be about 20 years ago. So I've put that up. I actually moved that later on because it was too close to the shelf. It needed to go further right. And then trying to hammer in some other pictures, like that's my mum's picture, and then that's a cloth image of illustrations I did on the irregular. Again, these things I move later on, they're not right, but you do kind of need to do that, don't you? You've got to kind of like experiment, see what doesn't work, walk away, come back to it, maybe get a bit frustrated. Like this was the day before, and then the next day when I went in, I completely changed it. And that's what I think is so interesting. I think that you really learn things by experimenting and training your own eye when it comes to styling and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and in different lights at different times of the year. I'm just trying to find a balance of things that I find inspiring, but also kind of keep me focused and centered on my own work, I guess is the aim, really. So this is what it looked like today after I went in. I swapped out the small pieces for a big piece of embroidery, which I think looks so much better, and it has the colours of lots of other things as well, so that ties it all in together. And then I moved the piece of newspaper slightly to the right in line with the bigger shelves, so that works. And then this is a kind of the broader view from the other side of the studio of what my side of the studio looks like. And I'm really, really happy with it. It feels like home. It's going to change. It's going to look different. I'll carry on sharing videos of how it changes and evolves. More pictures will go up there. But for now, this is how it's looking, and I am so happy. Thank you for being here.